Today, we're switching it up. I'm going to have a conversation with Stuart Delony, host of the podcast Snarky Faith and author of the Tribulation Survival Guide, How to Survive When Everything Else is Dead, a satirical look at the teachings that create the perpetual fear of Armageddon. Welcome. I'm Chris Jones, and this is Spiritual Hot Sauce. Stuart, welcome to the sauce.
Well, thanks for having me here, Chris. I'm excited to get into this hot sauce love and faith as well too. As we're going to be talking. Yeah. Now, are you a man that likes hot sauce? Are you a spicy connoisseur?
I do. I love hot sauce.
Okay.
And that's how it came about. I was trying to figure out how to come up with a name for the podcast that kind of represented what I do, which is it's kind of a weird space, but it opens up a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
And I was trying to come up with something that encompassed that. And I was eating dinner at the time, and I looked down and I seen hot sauce, and I said, spiritual hot sauce. Made sense. So I went running with it. So it just all kind of came together.
Love it. So I didn't know if this was going to be like Hot Ones where we have to be eating things at the same time when we're doing
We don't have to eat nothing hot, but some of the things we discuss may be considered hot topics, and they might be a little spicy for some. That's the whole concept of this podcast. So I know but you're not too far off the mark of what I do. You're Snarky Faith, and man, you got a funny podcast, but you get into some pretty deep subjects over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though I will say I'm a hot sauce connoisseur as well.
Yeah.
So I think we're in good company here.
Tell me your favorite hot sauces. Just give me your top three.
Well, I'll tell you this. Just telling you how bad we are. My wife and I actually had to figure this out. We order apparently cayenne in bulk.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was like in 5 pounds in bulk containers. And then we were going like, how often are we ordering this? We're like, oh my gosh, we're ordering 10 pounds of cayenne a year.
You may have a problem. Yeah.
We do have a problem. I do like hot food.
Yeah, me too. So, let's talk a little bit about you and your background, because you used to be an evangelical pastor. And do you still have any kind of pastoral duties?
No, I'm dutyless as a pastor now, which is probably why I'm happy.
Yeah,
in this space. I've background. You're asking, was raised generally conservative Southern Baptist with some sprinklings of Pentecostalism and charismatic in my background as well too with that. But I went through the gambit, was pastor, been a missionary, a church planter, done all of that kind of stuff, and kind of went through the whole cycle of what it was to be in church ministry, and figured that.
How long was you a pastor?
About 20 years.
Oh, wow. So
between youth pastor, pastor, all these other, whatever the names are for it.
I got you. Yeah. So what triggered you to go into a deconstruction? Was yours a hard deconstruction, or was it more of an evolution, or just a change of path and direction and change of scenery?
It was probably an evolution, because I've always been a person that took the words of Jesus very seriously, and was always just curious, if in my mind, if this is real, if as a kid when you're telling it's this is real, I'm like, okay, let's treat this real. And my mind tends to kind of be more logical than spiritual a lot of times too. So my curiosity was always wanting to learn more.
Yeah.
And you also begin to learn very quickly they don't like questions in a lot of circles. Even from a young kid on, they did not like those types of questions, even though I don't think I was just doing it generally out of curiosity, not really trying to pick apart arguments. And so, that starts off as a kid. I think it progresses into ministry, where you start asking more and more questions.
What kind of questions did you have as a kid?
I would have questions, even as a kid, I remember talking to my dad, who was always, he was chairman of deacons. So he was always had me in church all the time. I'd be like, what about folks that, didn't hear the gospel? Are they going to heaven? Are they going to hell? Even asking questions eventually of does hell even make sense?
Yeah.
Those kind of questions as well. I don't think I was asking that as a kid. I would be too afraid of a kid to ask my dad, maybe hell's not real. Let's talk about that.
Just curious, as you're going through this, the doubt that you're having, these internal questions, as you called it, evolving, was there some internal turmoil going on as you're also supposed to be leading a flock?
Yeah, I think there were definitely moments. A lot of times it was being in situations where I was challenging the power dynamics of churches I was at, to where I'm a youth pastor, find myself as a youth pastor at a large church on the West Coast, and find myself weekly having to defend the right for certain kids to be in our youth group. to the leadership. And so it starts really making you question
What kind
things.
of kids are we talking about?
Oh, like the dirty mouth kids, the kids that are like street kids that are rough around the edges, non-churchy kids.
Gotcha.
The type of kids that actually, if we're talking about like, let's evangelize back in these days, these are the kind of people we would want to be bringing in, and they did not like it.
What was your situation in dealing with when you became, it's like a senior pastor outside of youth pastor, and then you're over these flocks? I'm assuming you're part of an organization. Did you have some conflict in that?
Yes. When I actually became a senior pastor, when I had finally made it to the ranks, I'd finally arrived. This was a thing that I actually never really wanted. This was an odd thing because I'd been a youth pastor for several years. I'd done missionary work and was in the process of going through seminary. I did seminary later, or midway into my career.
Okay.
And seminary was great at ruining me for ministry. And I love it for it. But it was around this time where I was realizing I was working for an evangelistic organization, and I was like, I'm asking questions that they don't like me asking, because it's simply just, let's get them to pray the prayer, let's check the box and move on.
Yeah.
And when you start asking questions of like wider, like, hey, what are we inviting them into? What is this whole thing that we're actually trying to bring them into? What is this kingdom of God question? And I began to realize, working for that organization, after a while, you're like, okay, I'm not trying to help here. I'm being more of a pain in the ass to them. Meaning like they have a mission and I am not part of it ideologically right now. And so I decided to leave. And around the same time, I was finishing up seminary, and a friend of mine sends all of my info to another denomination that I didn't even know about, my resume and stuff. Since I had been
What was the denomination that she was leaving?
This other one it's like Churches of God General Conference, which is a small denomination, more East Coast oriented. Okay. And they end up calling me up because my friend had submitted my info.
I'm sorry, what was the denomination you were leaving at that point?
I was just working for an evangelistic organization at this point. So I'd done, if you're asking for the whole thing, it'd been like Southern Baptist. Then I did Foursquare for a little bit, which is a little Pentecostalish.
Okay.
And then went into a strictly evangelistic organization where we're support-based missionaries, raising money in communities, doing all that jazz.
Gotcha.
And so then I'm at a point where I guess what had happened, this organization reaches out to me. They're like, we think you're interesting. We want you to plant a church. And I was like, no, you don't. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do any of this. But anytime you start telling folks that have people, I guess, chasing them to be pastors, when you tell them no, it somehow makes you instantly more sexy. And because I was like, no, I don't want this. No, thank you. And the fact that I'd raised money for several years being a missionary made me even sexier to folks. Like, oh, you can raise money? Yes. And we were on the West Coast, and I just told them, I was like, all right, if you guys want to do this, I'm going to do this different. And it's going to be kind of my way. And it's not going to look like anything that you guys understand. That brought us West Coast back to the East Coast. I'm originally from the East Coast. And we did church plant. That really didn't look like a church. We met in a bar. We would have conversations about spirituality and faith, but in open sense. So we attracted atheists. We attracted folks from all sorts of different faiths. And we did that for a number of years, almost up until COVID.
Yeah, that's a heck of a shift there.
Yeah, it is. Because I think throughout my time in ministry, you begin to see issues with the hierarchies and power dynamics and structures. And I was like, if I'm going to do this real, I want this to be flat. No hierarchy to this. I want it just to be people, community oriented, not involving money either. And so it was something very, very different that lasted for a good season, right up until COVID.
So what was your experience like there?
It was good, and it was interesting. Like since the denomination that was like our planting denomination wasn't really in town or around us because they were trying to move further into the South, I ended up having I had a distant relationship with them, but I had a good relationship with folks in the community. Over time, it was just the denomination did not really fully understand what we were doing. Even though I've been honest the entire time of saying, this isn't going to look like anything. We don't have worship services. We don't do any of these things. And so, no, the community was great. And we're still friends with a ton of people, and we still do life with people from that community. It just doesn't organize and show up in a certain space anymore. But it was wonderful. We got to know people that became uncles and aunts to my children when they were younger, folks that we would just have in our house all the time, eating, breaking bread, doing life. And it was quite beautiful, but it did not look like
church. Did
church.
It feel more real to you?
It did.
More sincere, more genuine. Yeah.
But it's still that dance of trying to make denominations happy at the same time that don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I have a question, because I had recently had Jeremy Johnson on the podcast, and he was telling me that he felt a little hypocritical. I don't know if he used those words, but it's kind of how he described it, because he said there was always an ulterior motive. He's always constantly trying to convert people, and that was kind of his job, even though he didn't completely agree with everything of his organization and his denomination, but yet that was his job of what he had to do. So when you were in that kind of setting of a bar and people, you're breaking bread with them and you're having these real conversations, did you have that sense of converting people, or no, you're just having these sincere moments?
I was over that. I think after working for an evangelistic organization, I'd seen like how the sausage is made a bit, and about how like theologically and intellectually shallow a lot of that is. I didn't feel pressure at all. I wanted people to have community. I wanted people to have safe space just to be able to come and talk
with real questions and have doubt.
Yeah, and for me to be able to, like, we would have, for the first while we were doing this, we would have atheists, like militant ones that would come in to try to ruin what we were doing. And then they'd get frustrated with me because I'd be like, no, tell me more. Like, this is fine. I'm fine. Challenge what I'm saying. I don't care. Like, that's dialogue is what matters more here. And we can learn from each other and our shared experiences. And some of them kind of became folks that would hang out, and some of them would just leave and not come back. But it wasn't because of not being welcomed. It's because we were very open-handed in our approach to what community looked like.
So it was COVID that stopped this, correct? That stopped that whole thing?
It was COVID. We could have kept doing this. I eventually get defrocked from the organization that I'm in, which is fun because you jump through hoops to have a lifetime of ordination, and then they can defrock you very quickly as well, too.
So have you ever thought about going back and starting that back up? Because it sounded like it was genuine.
Right now, I guess my focus had really shifted to really where my voice is best used. And so I feel like I've leaned more into doing podcasting and the audience I can kind of affect that way. And in a lot of the writing I'm doing now as well, too, on a regular basis, it's kind of forced me to, that space was more open-handed that we cultivated with open questions. And I wasn't preaching. I wasn't pushing anything. I was the one that was bringing questions and facilitating.
It's just dialogue.
It was more dialogue. And so for me, I think whatever my pastor identity now, it's more of just being a mouthpiece and calling out BS when I see it.
So do you consider yourself pastoral still, or no?
Some people, I struggle with that a little bit. I just kind of want to be a person. But I know some people do see me in certain roles and in certain capacities like that.
But don't you think it's hard if you've been groomed to be that your whole life? You can't just walk away from what you've been built to be. It's kind of baked in the cake, isn't it?
It is, but it's part of the deconstruction cake too. Is like I don't necessarily like the baggage that comes with a lot of that, the title and the mantle and the authority of it.
So what led you into podcasting and becoming the host of Snarky Faith?
It all began, it was also part of the church planning process. This whole thing started off we were on local radio for a number of years before it was podcast. And it looked different. It was me trying to have similar conversations we are now a little bit, but I don't think I was free enough to be myself at that point as much. You're on local radio, you can't swear and do other things like that, where I think when I have passionate conversations about stuff, I seriously don't mind swearing about it. And so I think it evolved from that. And then,
All right. The Tribulation Survival Guide. What caused you to, what inspired you to write this book? And it's a really good book. That book, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It is a quotable book. And Greg is funny. But I got to tell you that your book kind of pokes the bear a little bit. It kind of raises some things in me if you've been through my experience and you go, oh, this seems familiar, but then you have a way of kind of diffusing that. So it's almost like a safe way to go deal with some of the trauma that comes from a fear-based faith.
Absolutely.
Open that up for me.
What got me started on this, part of it, one lane of it was the idea of making fun of fear-based faith, because a lot of us have had that baggage and that trauma, and I believe it's garbage. Now that I've kind of walked through all of this, it's just a control structure. But even furthermore, one of the things which is funny, I remember when I was going through my ordination ceremony, process, where you're before a board of people and they're asking you questions, and they'd asked me this question. It was like, well, is there any scripture you disagree with in the Bible? Because they're more of the inerrant crowd. And then I was like, well, in my head I'm going like, if they really want me around, let's play with this. I was like basically the entire book of Revelation I could do without. And then they were just why? And then it was one of those, and I explained it to him in a way that they couldn't argue with me. I told him, I was like, I'm not talking about this theologically. I'm talking about this culturally. This is one book that I feel like has distracted people from the ways of Jesus so profoundly.
Yeah.
It makes us focus elsewhere instead of right here and now. It makes us people that are it gives us permission to not care about where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And focuses us away from reality. And so, I was like, it's basically sci-fi and X-Files. And, there's been churches that I've talked to somebody about this too. And they said there was a Revelation Bible study class in this one church, someone was telling me, and they're like, it never ends.
Yeah.
Like they continue, they never talk about anything else in this Bible study, and it never ends.
So I mean,
and that was part of the reason for writing it.
But that's a huge point you just made. There's a loop that we get into, and you can see it in deconstructionists too. There's a lot of nomadic people out there, but they get caught in this perpetual state of hurt, and they almost take on the identity of a victim.
Yeah.
At the same time, within evangelical Christianity, there's this huge culture of perpetual Armageddon, perpetual fear. How big is this out there? Because I see it, and there's people making a good living, and that's all they talk about is this.
Yeah. There's that whole like grifter side to the end times.
For sure.
And because I grew up around it. My mom was the one watching Jim Bakker and creating she was part of the Satanic Panic during the 80s, and it was teaching me to be afraid of everything. Yeah. That somehow there was if there's danger out there or there's opportunity to sin out there, and it totally just warps your sense of reality. It does. And it makes it hard to be a human.
I talked to somebody one time and they said, and they were smart. They said, you know what? I never went on to strive for a higher education because I was so convinced the rapture was coming tomorrow or next week. Because of that, my whole life has been affected and impacted by, my ability to earn, how I feel about myself. But we were in a part of a movement one time, and I seen this going on where they would put the buckets out, and these were buckets to get the cash flow going on these offerings. And if there wasn't enough that they weren't happy with, they would send them back out again. And I remember being little and seeing food stamps come through, jewelry come through, and just people giving what they didn't have because these men of God were out there, creating fear. And if you don't give, that you're out of faith. And somehow they made themselves like the offering plate of God rather than what the whole thing was set up to, and that's just go give to the hurting and the needy that needs to be taken care of. But they usurped themselves in the middle of that. So if you're giving to me, you're giving to God. And because there's no way of checks and balances to pull things back in, it seems to just kind of run amok.
Absolutely. Well, even in these circles, we've in broader Protestant culture, we're not splitting and having breaks between denominations and churches breaking off and all that. That's fairly common for us. But even in these circles, it's worse. You have some person that gets into a disagreement about authority or whatever, and they spin off. And now we've got two different grifters. I feel like it's like one of these things, they just keep multiplying because there's people to dupe out there.
It's culturally driven. It's like it's accepted within certain circles for sure. And in some circles, it's just terrible. It's horrible. But yet, it's a great way to make a lot of money quickly if you're good at it.
It is.
So you decided after just deconstructing and starting this podcast, I'm going to write this book. Let's get into some more depth of this because it is funny, but it speaks to a lot of truth too. It's very bureaucratic, and heaven is bureaucratic, but it's very cleverly done.
Yeah, it started as just me wanting to. Someone asked me this on a different podcast, and I hadn't thought of it this way. I guess it started in layers. So some of it just started off as just really just a jokey thing, but then I would kind of add layers to it and add layers to it and add layers to it, and then it kind of got more interesting. And I'd be like, okay, this is better if it actually reads more straight and not trying to be overtly funny, which is hopefully good satire does. And so no, I wanted this when I'm doing this. I wanted on one end. I wanted the slightest chance that someone's going to read this and think it's real. for people that some people that are really in this, that was one of my goals, but the rest of it was mainly just satire, and I wanted folks to be able to laugh.
I think you accomplished that, because even me, because I know where you're going with this, and I'm reading, I go, man, this starts reading seriously. He's bringing up all the points that I heard growing up. So, no, you nailed it, deadpan all the way, but man, it's beautifully done.
And it's been fun marketing it, because it's confused a hell of a lot of people too. And so I've had great conversations with folks that are like, no, what is this? Conservatives and evangelicals. It's been fun arguing with them in comments online.
Well, it's fantastic. Like I said, it's very quotable. When I read "The Lake of Fire is not a trash receptacle," I busted out laughing. And "Pestilence before the familiar scent of incense mixed with essential oils," I thought was hilarious. How long has it taken to write this?
It took me about collectively a year. I started doing this because I was writing I have a different book that I needed to edit, and I put that off in order to start writing a new one. Yeah, it was something that kind of just grew. It kind of just grew, and then layers came into it. And then I started seeing, like, when I would talk to some of my friends and like a guys group I have about it, I'd go, oh, wait, some of these ideas are pulling out trauma. Oh, okay, let's kind of lean in on that a little bit more and go redo stuff. But the idea was just simply that this is the book that you would need if you missed the rapture. It's the, like, oh shit, you missed the rapture. Here's what life is like now. Here's exactly what it's like. And it just pushes ridiculous stuff to its logical conclusions.
So anytime somebody with an evangelical background says, I'm writing a book, I wrote a book, I go, okay, well, let's look at it. Because I don't know, something about modern evangelicals, part of your calling card is you got to have 2 books now before you even speak for the first time. So, when somebody comes with their book, you're okay, evangelical, I get it. Everybody's writing a book. But when I read your book, I was like, nah, this is gold, man. This is funny. This is good stuff. But at the same time, it taps you in those places, directly, hits those nerves if you've been traumatized by this. But at the same time, it has a humorous way of kind of diffusing it and allows you to look at it with doubt. Prophetic math is bad. It kind of circles back to that.
It does. Yep.
So did you intentionally mean it to be therapeutic for those people who's been through that? Or did that come out as you was writing it and you thought, you know what, I'm going to kind of push into that a little bit?
I think it came out, a little bit in different stages. Like, it wasn't my goal to be therapeutic at the beginning. I just wanted to be funny and to make fun of the systems that kind of pissed me off growing up and how much I've seen it hurt people. But I guess I began to see that, like, humor is like that kind of Trojan horse to kind of like slide in to get beyond the gate for people. And it kind of lets their guard down a bit, and they're able to go, oh my gosh, yes. Okay, I can laugh about this now.
Yeah.
Oh, because I feel like laughing at some of this trauma, it's healing.
Oh, for sure.
But I wasn't thinking like this book is going to heal you. That wasn't my goal when I was doing it. And this book is not, I will say this, coming from an evangelical, it is not preaching a mindset or anything else to you. No. This is just,
Yeah, at all. So,
It's more of a cultural piece and humor.
Anybody would enjoy this, but if you've been through this, it's going to speak to you and you're going to find it very humorous because you're going to understand it. You're going to see humor in it that, some people may not. But I think anybody would like it. But like you, it's not preachy. It's not teachy. It is just hilarious.
It is. Yeah, it's funny. I like how you're mentioning that too. It's reminding me of part of the process of even making it, because I think when I was about 80% done, I sent it to my therapist to read.
Really?
Yeah. I wanted my therapist to read it, and he told me my therapist also happens to be a bishop. Weird connections to stuff, but
Gotcha.
yes. Yeah, he told me, he's like, my wife kept coming to check in on me when I was reading the book because she thought something was wrong with me because I was making a lot of noise. Because he was laughing.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, I need to keep going. This is the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
no. It's a laugh out loud book. It for sure is. Yeah. So what do you want to do with the book? Where are you wanting to take it now? What do you want to do with this? You just going out and you got a follow-up book? I think you should do a follow-up to this. You need to do a part 2 to this because it is that good.
Okay. Well, okay. Fine. I'll tell you. Okay, there is a sequel kind of coming out already. Kind of, but it's not. Okay, this isn't the official sequel, but there is a coloring book there is. That is true.
I love it.
My publisher is, next month or 2 probably is when it's coming out, but I just took not all of them, but most of the well-known verses from like about the end times and about the tribulation from the Bible. and turned it into like a children's coloring book. But it's, you know, it's cute, but it's also kind of sinister at the same time. You know, it's something to where like you'll have the verse,
very dark humor.
It's very dark humor to where, you know, it's the lamb, I think broke open like one of the seals, and it's a cute lamb with a knife over a seal, like a literal seal, and other seals are like, oh no, and so it's coloring books. That's also for that as well too. But yeah, there's a little bit of a real sequel that is rattling in my head as well too.
Well, you know what? I think you should. I think you should follow up on it because it is that good. And it is hilarious, man. It's a laugh out loud thing. So, and you're still going with the podcast too, right?
Still cranking on Snarky Faith. I write. I have a weekly column over at Patheos too that I write. And I write also for The Collective, which is another journalistic group that I write for.
Well, before I let you go, how do people connect with you and follow you in your world?
My world? Well, if you want to follow any bit of my world, the easiest way to do it is just look up Snarky Faith. It's easier to spell than both my first name or my last name to get it correctly. So it's really easy to find that. That'll point you to where my writings are, where the book is, where my podcast. I'm all over socials. I'd love to interact with folks if they want to come and call me a heretic, ask me questions. I don't care. Yeah. I've heard it all. So,
Stuart, this has been a lot of fun. The book is The Tribulation Survival Guide. How to Stay Alive When Everything Else is Dead. I'll put links to the book in the episode itself. Again, Stuart, man, this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you again next time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me here on Spiritual Hot Sauce. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with questions, comments, and/or concerns. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and review us. You can follow us on Facebook for updates and information. And if you enjoy the flavor of the sauce, then please share it with others. I would appreciate that. We'll see you next time.